With the 428th pick in the 1974 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers selected one of the most violent killers in U.S. history, the I-5 killer.
Oh, shit.
Dun, dun, dun. This is Becky.
This is Jen.
This is Too Close to Home.
Oh, shit. I'm excited. I'm super stoked because I do not know anything about the I-5 killer.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Honestly, all I know is I-5 killer.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you all about him. We'll dive right in and get started. So Randall Brent Woodfield is the American serial killer, rapist, kidnapper, and robber who was dubbed the I-5 killer or the I-5 bandit by the media due to the crimes he committed along the Interstate 5 corridor running through Washington, Oregon, and California. He started out as the bandit, and then when he progressed to killing, then they changed it to killer. So that's why he goes by both names. Before his capture, the I-5 killer was suspected of multiple sexual assaults and murders. Though convicted in only one murder, he has been linked to a total of 18 and is suspected of killing of up to 44 people.
Whew.
Yeah. Woodfield was born on December 26, 1950 in Salem, Oregon. He was the third child of an upper-middle-class family. His mother was a homemaker, and his father was an executive at Pacific Northwest Bell. I always seem to pick these killers who's one of them or their family member worked for the phone company.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Something about the electromagnetic waves of the phone company be fucking shit and people up. He has two older sisters, one of whom went on to become a doctor and the other an attorney. So his family was very well-to-do. Woodfield was raised in Otter Creek, Oregon. He was popular and he was a football star at Newport High School. Through his childhood, all accounts, was stable, no abuse, no molestation, no anything, just normal childhood, no head traumas, although football. JJ says he thinks that might have been what it was. All the hits and concussions.
That's true. I mean, what's that wrestler's name? Chris Benoit. He had that head trauma stuff. He killed his wife and son and killed himself.
And Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Hernandez. Mm-hmm. Killed his girlfriend or wife?
No, he killed some dude, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
And then killed himself.
And then his wife was pregnant or something at the time. I don't know. Shit's wild.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
That's the most popular one.
If you've ever watched the movie Concussion with Will Smith.
No.
Oh, you should watch it. It goes through a lot of real life football players that had it.
Wow.
The movie starts out with the guy in the field, in the woods, pulling his own teeth out with pliers. And he was he was a real NFL player who had that. Is it CBI, CTBI, whatever?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
yeah,
you had me at the teeth pulling. I'm down.
Yeah. And so he goes through a whole bunch of the guys and things that they did to themselves and killed themselves and whatnot from it. Yeah. It's a really good movie. You know, as I talk about someone yanking their own teeth out, I'm like, so good.
I love it.
So his childhood was normal. Woodfield began to exhibit sexually dysfunctional behaviors during junior high school, particularly exposing himself in public.
Was that during like the football, like he was playing football at the time?
He was just in junior high. So he was just
they still rock those kids.
Yeah. I never found anything specifying whether he played ball in junior high, just they talked about his high school and college career.
Exposing himself. Nice.
But while in high school, Woodfield also exposed himself. There's an incident where he exposed himself to a group of teenage girls on the Yaquina Bay Bridge and was arrested for indecent exposure. His parents sent him to a therapist to find out, like, bruh, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this shit?
Why are you trying to show your ding-a-ling everywhere?
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, this was the 60s and 70s. So the therapist said, by all accounts, he was not overly concerned. He felt the teenager was just exploring his sexuality.
I don't know about you, but when I like to throw the titties out to explore my sexuality.
Right? You know, it was the 70s, the Woodstock era kind of thing,
yeah.
You know.
Nudist camps became pretty popular.
Free love. So I'm sure they were just like, it's cool.
Cool, man.
According to law officials, Newport High School's coaches knew about the situation, but what happens to all stars that played the football, playing on the football team?
They look the other way for whenever they're being bad.
Ding, ding, ding. Jennifer is today's quiz winner.
Yes. What do I win? A horrible story.
A horrible story. So they chalked it up to adolescence, lapse, and impulse control. And he stayed on the team and had no consequences.
That makes me think of like just one of the boys.
Just being a boys will be
Just
boys.
Boys being boys. I don't know about you.
When Woodfield turned 18, his juvenile record was expunged. So all that went away. After graduating from high school, he attended Treasure Valley Community College in Oregon. He played football for one season and was noticed by Portland State College and then was transferred to Portland State College to play ball. While he was there, he was arrested for allegedly ransacking an ex-girlfriend's home, but with little evidence, he was found not guilty in a jury trial. In 1970, while at Portland State College, he played there as a wide receiver, and he became very active in Campus Crusade for Christ, a Christian student group. But
this man,
yes,
this child at the time, just dick flapping in the wind.
Yes.
But Jesus is for me.
100%.
Jesus gonna fix that.
He was also arrested multiple times for indecent exposure and was convicted twice while in college.
Sorry, my brain just went, Jesus is gonna fix that. Then I was like, I bet there is a therapist out there named Jesus. And if he doesn't use Jesus will fix it,
then
it's a lost marketing opportunity. Sorry.
It really is. A lot of his teammates said that he was always very concerned about how he looked, appearances, putting on the persona of, like being in the Christian group, I'm this good guy. I look nice from outward appearances, all of that sort, which probably a lot came from his home life. Mm-hmm. I know they don't talk a lot about it except that it was normal, but I'm like, your sister went on to be an attorney. The other one went on to be a doctor. Your dad was prominent. And one of his, I watched a thing on Oxygen about him. And one of his childhood friends said his dad put a lot of pressure on him to be in the NFL. And so I think that there probably was a lot of pressure at home.
His daddy thought he was going to be number one in the NFL. Turns out, number one serial killer. You're good.
Yes. He was number one.
He tried.
And I think that some of all that led to some of his mess up in his head. Gary Hamboldt Woodfield's football coach recalled, when he was with me, he was the nicest, most gentlemanly kid I had ever known. He was quiet and polite, hardworking, and real coachable. Other teammates said he was soft-spoken, kind of a loner, didn't have a lot of friends, but noted his athleticism. They said he was hard working out on the field, like I said, very coachable. But they did say he was, a lot of people said he was a little bit weird. And the coaches said he would always like hang out in their offices and just seemed to like want to be liked. Woodfield chose to drop out of college 3 semesters shy of graduating with his BS in physical education and was selected as a wide receiver in the 1974 NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers in the 17th round.
Oh, at first I was like, much disappointed. Only 3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. Who wouldn't, right?
Millions of dollars? Okay, sure. It
wasn't millions. I'll tell you exactly how much it was. I got his contract.
70s or the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Woodfield tried to establish himself with the Packers. He signed a contract in February of 1974. He was offered a 1-year contract to serve as a skilled football player for $16,000. But at that time, the average salary was $27,000. So
okay, so yeah, he's
still making money. And this is the 70s, so it was good money. The deal came with bonuses, an extra $2,000 if he caught 25 passes, $3,000 if he caught 30. Woodfield's contract also stipulated that he keep himself in peak condition, avoid consorting with gamblers, and wear a coat and necktie in public places. And can I add, it only said a coat and necktie, nothing about pants.
Perfect clarification.
So nobody said he couldn't let his ding-a-ling swing in the wind.
There was no rules saying he, I mean.
Didn't say he had to wear breeches and couldn't.
That's a number one person thinking right there.
Yeah. I mean, he followed everything they said. He did not consort with gamblers.
Nope.
He stayed in peak condition.
Yep.
And he wore a coat and a necktie.
He was fancy when he had that dick out. You know what I'm saying?
He was. He signed almost immediately, and the money enabled him to quit his job at a Portland area burger chef. But beyond that, this was all validation. He was on the verge of playing in the NFL, what he had dreamed of doing. That April, Woodfield attended a mini camp in Scottsdale, Arizona, an invitation from the Green Bay coach, Dan Devine. In June, the team sent him a first-class plane ticket along with instructions for an airport limo pickup that would take him to the team's training camp in De Pere, Wisconsin. Woodfield declined. He opted instead to drive there.
I'd be like, fuck yeah, give me a limo. I've never even been
And
in
a
one.
first-class
Shit.
plane ticket?
Let's do it.
Check.
Apparently, someone's never ridden in coach before. Because first class, hell yeah.
Nope, he wanted to drive out there. So from all accounts, when you first hear about him, he's like this, small town kid, makes it big, humble. When he arrived, his bio in the Packers media guide listed him as 6 feet, 170 pounds. In July, Woodfield was among the rookies who competed against the Bears in a scrimmage at Lambeau Field. Woodfield survived early cuts and reported to friends in Portland that he felt as though he belonged. The Packers thought otherwise. They released Woodfield on August 19th, 1974, before their season began. Woodfield would later contend, but unreasonably, that his prospects were hindered because Green Bay was stressing a running game that season, which they say for the time period was true. Like, they weren't focused on wide receivers, so he just thought that that's mainly why he was cut. Police would contend that the team had other reasons. Packers officials declined to comment for this story. He was getting in some trouble during that time, and so it was kind of, I listened to another podcast about this, and they described it perfectly. If you follow football at all, Nick Saban's the big head coach for Alabama. Roll Tide. I love Alabama. And he says, no matter how good you are, you never want to be the but guy. He said you never want to be the guy that they're like, he's amazing on the field. He can catch anything. He can run anywhere. Yeah, but he's always getting into trouble.
He's always got that dick out.
Yeah, but he doesn't wear pants with his coat and necktie. And as Saban said, you can be amazing, but if you're a but guy, we're not going to pick you.
Exactly.
Sounds like he was a but guy.
He came with complications.
Yes.
And that's not something a multi-million-dollar corporation is going to be wanting
that's
to
not
sign
something
into.
That a regular business having a regular job wants.
Yeah.
If you are stirring up stuff, they don't want you representing their organization being that person. And dick swinging in the wind is not one.
He is the best auto mechanic in the world. But every time I turn around, that motherfucker's got his dick in something.
Yeah. He says that's how you clean out the pipes.
And they're like, sir. Sir.
Sir.
But
No,
dick
sir.
away.
After being cut by the Packers, Woodfield played the 1974 season with the semi-pro Manitowoc Chiefs and worked for Oshkosh Truck as a press brake operator. This area where he worked was the filming for Making of a Murder. While he would have preferred to spend his Sundays at Lambeau, Woodfield figured that playing on Saturdays nearby for the Chiefs, that maybe the Packers execs would notice him and reconsider their decision. After the season, though...
I mean, like, sir, I don't think it has anything to do with your play.
Nothing. Nothing. So after that season, Woodfield was dropped by the Chiefs. No reason was given publicly, but there were murmurs, however, that the team had off-field concerns. It's really sad. Like, dude, you could have went on to potentially have a really great career, but you just
could have been a Peyton Manning, okay?
Yeah,
but
you're dangling in your pants. I don't understand it.
The name of this episode is going to be Ding-a-Ling in the Wind.
For Christ's sakes. And if you look at, when you see pictures of him, he was a good looking guy for the time. He was very, 70s hair and everything.
But at that time, he was
And when he got arrested, he had very much a Colin Kaepernick going on, like seriously. And but he was not bad looking. He was good looking. I don't know.
That dick, though.
While there are no public arrest records for Woodfield in Wisconsin, a detective would later learn that Woodfield was involved in at least 10 cases of indecent exposure across the state.
That was a shock.
Right? As one Wisconsin law enforcement officer recalls years later, Woodfield, and this is a direct quote, couldn't keep the thing in his pants. Direct quote. Did not embellish or change any words.
Could not keep that thing in his pants.
Couldn't do it. Woodfield left Wisconsin in late 1974 and returned to Portland, disgraced by his failure to maintain his football career. This is when the rampage started. A lot of law enforcement believes, and the FBI profiled him, that playing football kept him in line. And then whenever he didn't have that anymore is when all of this, which was probably always in him, came out. So it took some time before Randall graduated to murder, but the buildup was steady. So he was 3 semesters shy of completing his physical education degree at Portland, but he just did not want to come back to school. Instead, he went job to job, residence to residence, romance to romance. He was 24 and moving backward. Woodfield would show up at Portland State on occasion to work out with his old team, which is a little bit sad. In early 1975...
I'm sorry, I just every time I'm thinking about him, it's just walking around with his dick out.
Yeah. Yep. So
just I'm here to work out, you guys. Let's lift some weights. Anybody need spotting? Whoops, I didn't mean to teabag your brother.
Just, you know me, I don't like to wear pants. Let's swing free. Air it out. So all he's doing is just airing it out.
Let it keep that air. Got to keep it oxygenated.
It's how you prevent jock itch. Air.
That's the number one crux of being a football player is that jock itch.
Yeah, he was just really maintaining his health.
Yeah. He was woke, okay?
He was so woke. In early 1975, several Portland women were accosted by a knife-wielding man described as athletically built and handsome. He would force them to perform oral sex and then rob them of their purses. Law enforcement responded to the string of crimes by having female police officers act as decoys. On March 5th, detectives set up a sting operation. An undercover female officer walked leisurely through a park, and a man wielding a paring knife darted out from behind some bushes demanding money. Officers converged and arrested the assailant, who identified himself as one Randall Woodfield.
Randall.
He was charged with robbery. Woodfield gave an extensive interview to police. He claimed he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, and that he was committed to the Christian faith.
But
he did admit that he had some impulse control issues.
I like it. He's trying to make it classy now. I have impulse control issues. Yeah, I can see your impulse right now.
And that he had some quote-unquote sexual problems. And he confessed to one vice, that he had taken steroids to augment his physique. And maybe he speculated that charged his sex drive and led to his inability to control it.
Mm.
Which, I mean, roid rage is a real thing, but it's usually like anger, not like...
Not angry boners.
Yeah. In April 1975, he pled guilty to reduced charges of second-degree robbery and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was freed on parole in July 1979 after serving only 4 years. His former PSU teammates decided to throw him a party to celebrate his release from prison. He also got out just in time to attend his 10-year high school reunion in Newport. You would think that you had this failed career that he had told everybody about, and then you went to prison for robbing people and making them suck your dick, that you probably wouldn't be like, RSVP to the 10-year reunion. But
that's not peak reunion talk.
Yeah.
You know, you want to say, hey, I was a Green Bay backer, not, hey, I was arrested for forcing women to give me oral sex.
Yeah. You know, I don't know that I would go to my reunion if that was my history, but
I think I would stay home and just enjoy the evening, maybe a nice bubble bath, bottle of whiskey to forget my
woes.
Yeah.
Nope. Instead, he went there He wore clothes to reveal his muscles and told stories
What
about
did
his
he
time.
like have like a cut off button up shirt with a tie?
And he talked about his glory days with the Packers. I'm like, it's exactly what I tell my son when he's like, I'm not one of the popular kids. And I'm like, it's okay, because the popular kids, this is what happens. They come back at the reunion. They're like, look, I'm still ripped. Remember when I caught that pass in the fourth quarter? They do the Al Bundy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, trust me, baby. They don't all go on to have wonderful lives that they're just usually ends those 4 years.
Yeah, that's their peak.
Yeah, that's their peak. It's a wrap.
You don't want to peak until your 30s like us, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I am at peak performance right now.
Gosh. Sad. Not for you, but for me. This is the peak of my life. Okay. Out of prison and after all his failures, he decided to, he was let go from his bartending gigs, jested by girlfriends.
Again, I'm just thinking about him. Make it a martini. Dick flopped out on the little tray.
He more so was usually the bouncer.
Even then, like, you gonna fight a bouncer with his dick out?
No. Maybe that was what he was doing it for.
Oh, yeah. This is, you can't come at me, bro.
That's right. You're right. I cannot and will not.
No, thank you.
He, in very Ted Bundy fashion, he cruised around Portland in a gold 1974 Champagne Edition Volkswagen Beetle and took absolute pride in his
about them
physique.
VW Beetles. Makes me a little worried because I drive a VW. It's not a Beetle. It's not a Beetle.
It's not a Beetle.
Don't worry.
He was especially fond of sending naked photos of himself to women.
Oh, wait, that's something. When cell phones got really popular.
Hold on. I want you to really get the full idea of this sending naked. Remember, this is still when you had the camera that you had to click and then to get to the next picture. Then you had to take it to the photo place, drop it off.
Oh, no.
Wait for it to get exposed. Yeah. So he put a lot of effort into these naked selfies. I mean,
which also could be kind of like he probably got to throw a little bit out of that too, like knowing that some stranger
was going to
have to see his dick.
Yeah, he didn't just like prop his cell phone up and put the timer on and then it was a bad angle. I mean, he didn't even know till he got him exposed.
Is there a good angle in a dick?
He put a lot of work and effort into these. Put some respect on that.
He was an artist. Paint me like one of your French girls.
In late 1979, Woodfield was photographed in a state of undressed, his muscles all oiled up, and he mailed the image to Playgirl for consideration. The following May, he received a letter back. Congratulations. You have been selected for possible publication in Playgirl's Guy Next Door feature. Yeah. You can find the pictures where he posed to online if you'd like.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I love it.
Just picture 70s porn. Right there. That's what it is.
Bush. I bet there was.
Well, in the pictures, his wingding was covered.
What? Odd choice for him.
Right?
Now he got bashful?
You want to see? No. I'll catch you on the street and show it to you.
I only want to show it to you when you don't have a choice.
Yes. While he waited for his photo shoot, that's when he began to murder. On October 11th, 1980, Sherry Ayers, an attractive 29-year-old x-ray technician and former... I know. I was like, what? Huh?
Hold up.
Pump the brakes.
Too close to home.
Exactly. Former classmate of Woodfield was raped and murdered in her apartment in the 9000 block of Southwest 9th Place in downtown Portland. Her body was discovered October 11th by her fiance. She had been bludgeoned and stabbed repeatedly in the neck. According to the coroner, she died from blunt force trauma and knife wounds to her neck. Ayers, a University of Oregon graduate, had known Woodfield since second grade. The former classmates had corresponded via letters during Woodfield's 4-year imprisonment and reconnected at the reunion and had seen each other socially. So this girl knew you from second grade. She wrote to you while you were in prison. You was your little pen pal. then hung out with you when you got out, when most people would have been like, I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And you repay her by murdering her. Cool story, bro.
Not cool, man.
Suspecting Woodfield's involvement, her family provided his name to law enforcement. Immediately, he was pegged as a suspect based mostly on his recent release from prison. When homicide detectives questioned him, they found his answers were evasive and deceptive, but he declined to take a polygraph. A blood test did not link Woodfield to the crime, nor did his semen match that found in the victim's body. And there were no other physical evidence, so no charges were filed.
Was this at the time where they were just blood typing semen and not?
I think so. They didn't really specify how it didn't match, but, there wasn't no DNA.
Yeah.
None of that kind of shit. So, I'm like,
I mean, if we learned anything from forensic odontology.
any way she can bring up to say that word. I love it. 7 weeks later, on Thanksgiving Day, Darcy Fix and her boyfriend did not show up to dinner. Her father went to look for them and found them bound with athletic tape, shot to death execution style with a .32 revolver, in Fix's Portland home by her father. Darcy had been sexually assaulted. Again, Woodfield had a connection to the murdered woman. Darcy dated one of his closest friends when he was at Portland State University. Again, Woodfield was questioned, but police had nothing concrete linking him to the murders.
So he's probably feeling like fucking bulletproof. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On December 9th, 1980, a man wearing a fake beard held up a gas station in Vancouver, Washington, just across the Columbia River from Portland. 4 nights later, in Eugene, Oregon, a man wearing a fake beard and a piece of athletic tape across his nose raided an ice cream parlor. The next night, a drive-in restaurant in nearby Albany, Oregon, was robbed by a bearded man. A week after that, in Seattle, a gunman matching the same description pinned down a 25-year-old waitress in a restroom and forced her to masturbate him.
Again, you're going to have to just murder me. I'm not going to do it.
Well, actually, of all things, I would prefer I just jack you off. That's like the
very
least
unenthusiastically.
It's the least violating to me. So
I would never be able to look at my hands again. Like, oh God.
No, but at least you didn't
Then
penetrate
you have
me
a
in
whole
any kind of way.
reason to never give another hand job in your life.
Don't want to anyway. So thank you. I'm just like, I really wanted to, but
not downplaying this at all, guys. It's just our sense of humor. I swear to God.
It's the only way to get through it.
It's the only way.
January was another busy month for the gunmen police were already calling the I-5 bandit. So they knew all those robberies were the same person because he looked the same and he always wore an athletic piece of tape across his nose. And all I could think was Nelly. The whole time. Remember how he used to wear that piece of tape under his eye? That's all I could think about the whole time. So they knew all the robberies were the same person, but they did not know that those murders were. On the 8th of January, he raided the same Vancouver gas station for a second time, forcing the female attendant to expose her breasts before he took all the money. Show me your boobies. Don't give me the money. It's like, that's an odd request.
I need titties and tinnies, okay?
Titties and tins.
Tins on tins on tins on tins. It's a gas station. I know that the bills aren't big.
No. Well, I don't know. There wasn't debit cards back then. So maybe there
that's
wasn't
true.
Cash. 3 days later, he robbed a market in Eugene, surfacing at Sutherland, Oregon on January 12th to wound a female clerk with gunfire. He was wearing a fake beard and Corvallis on January 14th when he invaded a home occupied by 2 sisters aged 8 and 10. The girls were forced to disrobe before, this is what the article said, filleting their assailant. Do you know what filleting means?
Like oral sex.
Then I had to look up filleting, and then it said fellatio.
And then you had to look up fellatio.
And it just said masturbation. So I'm like, either some form of it, which, I mean, could be oral sex.
Yeah.
So he made them poor little baby girls do something dirty to him. Them poor baby girls.
Now he's getting into pedophilia.
Yes.
He's just
all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
In Salem on January 18th, The target was an office building where he killed Sherry Hull and wounded Beth Wilmot after binding them with athletic tape and sexually abusing both women. So he bound them, raped them, and then shot both of them in the back of the head twice, and the one girl, Beth, survived. As soon as he left, she called 911. Now, let me just put this out there, because if anybody's heard about him. So the first article I read was a long Sports Illustrated article they did over it, and they called her Lisa Garcia. And though Wikipedia called her Lisa Garcia. And then I came across the third article, and they were like Beth Wilmot. And I'm like, wait a minute, who? Wait, huh? What?
Yeah.
Who? So then I watched the Oxygen series, and the prosecutor that prosecuted him said it was Beth Wilmot. So I'm like, okay, those other articles must have got this name from somewhere else.
Right.
Because the attorney that prosecuted him and the detective who investigated and arrested him, they were the ones that did it, said it was Beth Wilmot. So we're going with Beth Wilmot.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what her name really is. I don't know if Lisa Garcia was something that they started using later.
Like,
so maybe
they don't even sound the same. Like they're two different, completely different names.
Yes, two completely different ones. So I don't know if that Lisa Garcia came up later, like to protect her identity.
Oh, that's
at
a good
some point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because I couldn't.
If that's the case, they're just confusing the shit out of us.
Yeah, I was so
So
confused.
good job.
Because then I went back and changed it to Wilmot, and then another article said I was Garcia, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
I've had that happen though, because it's hard with researching because you have to look at multiple sources, and sometimes the different multiple sources will have all different answers. So you're trying to like figure out what's factual, what's not.
I decided going with the prosecutor and the detective who
Safe
actually
bet.
worked the case were the safest bet to go with. Right after he shot him, Wilmot waited for him to leave, and then she got up and called 911. The bandit rounded off his month on January 26th and 29th with robberies in Eugene, Medford, and Grants Pass. Woodfield's attempt at silencing his witness wasn't as hopeful or effective as he'd hoped because Wilmot did not die. And she was able to give it a description. She was able to testify against him. I mean, the whole nine. Like, he didn't even, like, I don't know how she got shot twice in the head and was, like, just fine.
And you're a nurse, so that whole to me was like, oh, whoa.
Like, they had to remove the bullets from her head, and homegirl was still, like,
goddamn,
firing on all cylinders. Yeah. On February 3rd, 1981, Donna Eckerd, 37, and her 14-year-old daughter, Janelle Jarvis, were found dead in their home in Mountain Gate, California, just off I-5. Each had been shot multiple times in the head and bound with athletic tape. The father was a firefighter, so the family was known to law enforcement. And the detective said that was probably the hardest one because they knew the family.
Mm.
And the other sister came home and found them dead. Lab tests would later reveal that the young girl had been sodomized. The bullets matched the bullets used in the murder of Hull and the attempted murder of Wilmot, but they still didn't know who it was at this point. Earlier that same day, an 18-year-old waitress was kidnapped and raped. The next day, a similar crime was reported 100 miles up I-5 in Eureka, California.
Damn, he was
doing multiple shit in one day. And then
no
the
cool down.
next day,
Keeping it 100 miles an hour at all times.
And he would go from one extreme to the next. Like, one extreme, he's just making someone flash him. The next, he's raping someone. Then he's having them jack him off. Then he's killing people. Like, I mean, he was all over the place. There was, like, no rhyme or reason, which is understandable why police had a hard time knowing that one person was doing all this because the shit was all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing.
There's no rhyme or reason or method or rhythm.
The only thing they said that was the same and everything that was able to tie the robberies and everything together later is when he was robbing and killing, he always wore the athletic tape across his nose, and that he would bind his victims with athletic tape, which they said was very strange. You never see people use that.
Yeah.
But it was
That's
he was bringing his football career into it. Like, look at me, I played sports. He wanted everyone to know he played sports is what the FBI profiler suggested why he used the athletic tape, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Word began spreading that there was an I-5 bandit / I-5 killer. Women were being warned to exercise caution. On Valentine's Day,
I thought you were about to say women were warned to be to exercise. I'd be like, oh, I'd be dead.
On Valentine's Day, 1981, Candy Wilson told her 18-year-old daughter, Julie Ritz, to be careful. There's a dangerous person out there. Later that night, Julie was shot and killed in her home in Beaverton, Oregon. When they found her,
them Oregon.
I know.
West Coast.
I think there's just a lot of crazies out there.
Yeah. That's us coming from Florida. That's saying a lot.
When they found Julie, they found 2 empty wine glasses in the sink, music playing, and coffee brewing. There had been water boiling with some instant coffee out, and the water had completely boiled out of the pan. So they knew that she knew whoever killed her.
Mm-hmm.
She had known Woodfield previously. In his job as a bouncer, he had overlooked her fake ID and let her into the bar. So he knows all these motherfuckers too.
Damn.
Between 1980 and 1981, he committed multiple murders in cities along the I-5 corridor in Washington, Oregon, and California. He was armed with a silver .32 revolver and wearing athletic tape over his nose. He would abduct a woman, commit a sexual act, and then shoot them execution style.
So what's the point of the athletic tape on a nose? I don't know. I swear.
I don't either.
I know that they put the black paint under the eye for so it's not as bright, I guess.
Right.
But wait, does your nose need it? Can you not? It's like a breathe right strip for you? Or?
They said they didn't know if it was like some crude attempt at disguising himself. Yeah.
No one will know. Ding.
Yeah.
Okay, Clark Kent with your fucking eyeglasses.
And all the sketches of him that all these people that he'd robbed and whatnot, every one of them he's got this little athletic tape. And I'm like, it's not doing anything to,
Other than confusing the shit out of me, sir.
And that's why the FBI guy was like, all I can think is he wanted everyone to know he was affiliated with sports in some sense.
Look at him. I bet he's a football player.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. I thought he throws a mean pigskin.
So he was arrested in March of 1981. A persistent detective led the investigation that ended with Woodfield's arrest. He worked in the sheriff's office of Marion County, Oregon, where Hull had been murdered, and he suspected Woodfield early on. Woodfield had already served a prison sentence for preying on women. He was acquainted with multiple victims, and he certainly knew his way around the I-5 corridor. And he matched the physical description provided by multiple witnesses. Marion County detectives put together a payphone call log that showed Woodfield using calling cards within a few miles of various murders. So apparently he would go make these calls from payphones and he would charge them to his home phone. I didn't know that was a thing back then. Oh. And was calling, they never specified all the places he was calling, just that he made numerous calls from the areas that he committed the crimes and then would charge them back to his home phone.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I guess it was one of those things back in the day when you used to send your kid to the grocery store and they'd just charge it to their parents' account. And you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so I guess it was one of those things. I didn't know that was such a thing. I'm old, but I ain't that old.
Right? We're young. We're spring chickens.
Spring. Police interrogated him on March 5th, 1981. He refused a polygraph, but agreed to let them search his residence, a room he'd been renting from an unsuspecting family in Springfield, Oregon, and found telling evidence. The same brand of tape that had been used on the victims, a .32 bullet in his racquetball bag, and they also had Beth Wilmot do a police lineup where she pointed him out immediately. 4 days later, police arrested him and charged him with Hull's murder, Wilmot's attempted murder, and 2 counts of sodomy. Woodfield, employing a public defender, entered a plea of not guilty. By March 16th, indictments were rolling in from all over the place, from all the robberies and all the other crap, including murder, rape, sodomy, attempted kidnapping, armed robbery, and possession of firearms by an ex-convict. When Woodfield's trial for the incident with Hull and Wilmot began in the summer of 81, it marked the first murder trial for a prosecutor named Chris Van Dyke. His famous father was Dick Van Dyke.
What?
Yes.
Oh.
And so he is the one that was on the Oxygen series that...
Did he look like his dad?
He does. He does look like him.
Fucking wild. I bet he's old, though. Because you think about, I think Dick Van Dyke's in his 90s, isn't he?
Is he still alive?
I mean,
Yes,
skeleton with the skin on it that's rambling around at 90-something years old is Dick Van Dyke. I guess he is.
With the Grim Reaper holding his hand, guiding him.
I saw some pictures of him the other day. That's the only reason I know. And he looks rough, but he's still kicking. Not too hard. You might break a hip.
He's older. I mean, he's all white haired. So which I'm going white haired too when I'm a spring chicken. So it doesn't necessarily tell your age.
No, that's true. That's true.
But he does have his dad's chin. Yes. He said it was in the Oxygen series. He said that was his first murder case for this guy who had done all of this stuff. And he was just scared shitless about it. Because he's like, I cannot
That's a lot of
have
pressure.
this guy get off. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure like the jurors from the Johnny Depp trial felt the same thing. Like, I know they can't find out my identity, but when they do,
Yes.
I don't want nobody showing up on my lawn, okay?
Mm-mm. So by his own reckoning, Van Dyke had armloads of evidence, overwhelming evidence. And Woodfield's defense was flimsy, predicated on mistaken identity. And at one point, the defendant's lawyer went so far as to suggest that Wilmot's identification of Woodfield was influenced by detectives' hypnosis. When Woodfield eventually took the stand, he spoke softly with his arms crossed, looking nothing like a star athlete. Brazenly, he admitted to the court of owning a .32 pistol, but said that he learned as a parolee it was a violation, so he went and threw it in the river. And he did admit to having an elevated sexual desire and once again blamed it on steroid use. Beth Wilmot, meanwhile, was the key witness, recalling the horrific night at the office building 5 months earlier. She maintained that the man she faced in the courtroom was the same man who she alleged shot her and killed her coworker. It took the jury only 3.5 hours to reach its verdict. On June 26, 1981, Randall Woodfield was convicted on all counts. Woodfield, then 30, was sentenced to a prison term of 90 years, or life plus 90 years. That December, 35 more years were added to his sentence when a jury in Benton County, Oregon, convicted him of sodomy and weapons charges tied to another attack in a restaurant bathroom. So all he ever was convicted of was Hull's murder, the attempted murder of Wilmot, and then the sodomy and weapons charge. District attorneys up and down the I-5 corridor had a decision to make. Even if they could secure a conviction, what would be the point? Woodfield was already almost certain to die in prison. Additional trials would just drain their offices of time and resources and put the victim's family through an excruciating ordeal. Even in California, where Woodfield was accused of killing a mother and her daughter, and where the death penalty would have been an option, the local prosecutor eventually decided against pursuing Woodfield. So basically what they said was, we're not going to charge him with any of this. And if he ever does get paroled, then we'll just rearrest him and charge him with that shit then.
There you go.
And that way he never gets out.
Yeah.
Which honestly makes sense.
This is a smart thing to do to keep him from...
Because if you convict him now of all that stuff, if he gets paroled, he's getting paroled on all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep those charges in your pocket. And if he ever gets out.
This is a little poker for later.
Exactly.
It's a little tool for later, kids.
So in July of 2005... an account of similar DNA matches. Weatherly, the former Portland lieutenant and cold case supervisor, interrogated Woodfield about his connection to the unsolved crimes. Out of the Oregon State Penitentiary for a day, sitting across from Weatherly on the 13th floor of the Judicial Building in downtown Portland, Woodfield was pleasant company. I remember that his hair was perfect, feathered, and combed. He had a perfectly even tan, nails manicured. He was very charismatic, which makes sense because he would lure the victims and get them to let their guard down. Woodfield, though, confessed to nothing, and he still has never confessed to anything to this day. Still, the list of victims has grown. In 2012, detectives in the Portland Police Bureau's Cold Case Unit used magnetic bead technology at the Oregon State Police Crime Lab and announced that they had matched Woodfield's DNA to 5 other victims. Fix, Jarvis, Eckerd, Altig, and Ritz. So all the people that we talked about, the mother and the daughter, the couple that was found on Thanksgiving, and the girl Julie, his DNA was found on all 5 victims. So although he's convicted of 1, we know that he killed at least 6 people. DNA says you killed 6. Ultimately, as in other jurisdictions, they decided not to prosecute for those other 5 murders. They just wanted, again, to hold on to it. The families know he killed them. The DNA says he killed them. They know he's in prison for life, but we're just going to hold on to it in case.
Well, it probably gives them better, relief knowing that, hey, we're not charging him now, but we will do this to prevent him from ever seeing the light of day. Yep. We're going to make him pay for it.
Yep.
And if, I'm not saying like I would know 100% for sure, but if it was me, I would think that would make me feel a lot better.
I would think so too, because to know you're already in life for killing somebody else, I don't necessarily need you to have the tag on you that you took my child's life. Yeah. I just need to know you're never getting out of there. Jim Lewis, another detective in Portland's cold case unit, is intimately familiar with the case of the I-5 killer. A veteran detective who has interviewed the most hardened criminals, he is struck most by Woodfield's utter lack of accountability or remorse, even decades later, even in the face of indisputable evidence. If you're talking about somebody moving towards some form of rehabilitation, they had to do at some point acknowledge they are responsible for their own behaviors, says Lawrence. That is not Randy Woodfield. If Woodfield were somehow to be paroled tomorrow, he would reoffend. There's no doubt about it, says Lawrence. Even to this day, he is a stone cold killer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you a little about his prison life. In October 1983, Woodfield was injured at the prison during a disturbance by another inmate. In April 1987, he filed a $12 million libel suit against author Anne Rule. True crime author Rule wrote, "The I-5 Killer, a best-selling nonfiction account of Woodfield's life and crime spree in 1984. Oregon's federal court dismissed the lawsuit on a statute of limitations grounds in January 1988. Woodfield married 3 times and divorced twice during his prison time."
So third time's a charm?
Yeah, I guess. Some letters he wrote from prison were eventually sold online. You can see a bunch of them on there, too. Woodfield wrote the following on his MySpace account in 2006. "I'm Randy. I'm 55. I spend the remainder of my days in prison because I've committed a murder, along with many other crimes. I once tried out for the Green Bay Packers. The only reason I didn't make it is because the skills I had to offer, they didn't need at the time." Exactly.
It sounds like a ad for a dating service.
Yes.
"Hi, I'm Randy. I'm 55. I like long walks on the beach with my dick out.
I like long walks on the prison yard with my cock swinging." And
I bet he was really enthused about dicks out for Harambe. Now's my chance.
And unfortunately, that's all we have about Randy Woodfield because he's never talked.
Is he still alive?
He is. He is still alive, hanging out on not death row. He didn't.
Maybe you could be wife number 4, Becky.
Oh, maybe. I'd have to divorce JJ first, and I kind of like him. So
yeah, he's a bit of a winner.
He is. So
he's
sorry,
not a
Randy.
wiener. He's a winner.
I know you're 55 and spend the remainder of your days in prison, which is super exciting.
You got a lot going for you, buddy. It's great.
So they said that some believe he's killed as many as 44, like I said, but they do believe he killed more than the 6 that they have the evidence on. And they said they're still slowly going through cases, cold cases doing DNA, and that they do believe that he will be linked to more.
I love it when a case gets solved.
I know. So check out pictures of him because he doesn't look like a killer. He's very Ted Bundy. He's handsome, very deceiving. My sources were the Sports Illustrated, I-5 Green Bay Packers, Randall Woodfield, of course, Wikipedia, Murderpedia, and the Oxygen series, Mark of a Serial Killer, Killer Athlete.
Oh, he was good looking.
Yeah. And he came from a good family. I wonder, though, if there was like some family issues that they never just came to light, because they said at one point when he came back after getting cut from the Packers, he tried to get up with a sister for to go to dinner one night. And the sister said, "My husband just doesn't think it's a really good idea if we associate with you." And that was before
all of this happened.
And so I'm like, your family, your sisters go on to be successful, and you did go on to be successful for a moment and failed at it, and now you're not good enough for the family anymore.
Oof.
Because he didn't go back home and live with any family. They didn't talk about him having anything to do with them when he came back. And I'm not saying that that's reason to go around and kill people.
But I mean, to me, one of the reasons why I want to know why someone's doing something or has done something like that is just a better understanding. Is that something we could prevent in the future? Is this something societal or environment or bred into you? You don't know. And asking those questions, I feel like, are very pertinent.
Yeah. And I feel like the fact that his family never spoke up, never said anything, never anything. The only person was the childhood friend who said a lot of pressure was put on him. I mean, pressure's put on all of us, but
we've seen what happens to people who've been, have tiger moms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's been murders there too. People crack.
Yep. So that was the I-5 killer.
Yay. That was good.
Thank you.
I learned a whole new, I had never even heard of him other than I-5 killer.
Yep. Now you know all about him.
Now I know.
And his dick swinging.
I just kept, all throughout this episode, I just kept thinking about this man with his dick out completely.
With his
and
Nelly
now
patch.
I see his face, so it's just like a frat bro.
Yeah.
What's wrong, guys? What's going on? Oh, just don't mind that. Well, you guys, we have merch. So if you go to our bio on Facebook or Instagram, there'll be a link tree that you can go to our merch. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
TikTok. I haven't done any in a while. I really need to.
Now's the time for them to catch up. And then if you have any of your own Too Close to Home stories, you can drop in our DMs, write us an email. And what else, Becky? What am I forgetting? Oh, if you could do us the kindness to subscribe and rate us on all platforms that you listen to, it'd be pretty rad if you did.
I was trying to find his Playgirl photo for you, but couldn't find it.
I don't want to see it without his dick out. I'm just saying.
You can't. He's hiding the dick.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm really disappointed in him. That was his one chance to be proud that your dick was out.
Right? I mean, I'm sure if he would have actually got into and if he would have just waited, they told him he made it.
Yeah.
He could have had his fame and glory. In the meantime, stay safe.
Keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home.
And keep your dick in your pants.
Keep it in your pants.
The love of God.
Christ's sakes.
There's no good angle to a dick.
There's not.
Nobody really looks like an old turkey neck.
Nobody wants your dick pics.
Okay. You're welcome. PSA from Jen and Becky.
Bye. Bye. I really want to show you this picture. I wish I could remember where I seen it at.
If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.